Okay, so shalom. Let's get straight into this lesson. All right. So this message is called therapy. Okay. Now, I just want you all to know that I'm not a ladies' man, nor am I qualified to give marriage advice. I'm not a marriage counselor, nor am I a therapist, nor am I a psychologist. Okay? And I don't care to be any of those things because those are all things of the world. Okay? So, this message is just to a lot of people that feel as though that they need marriage counseling. And, excuse me, they feel as though they need marriage counseling, or they need a therapist, or they need a psychologist, or any of those things, right? No, you don't. Now, I just want you all to know something, right? I don't hope to stop anyone's monies. In other words, if you're a marriage counselor, or if you're a psychiatrist, or you're a therapist, whatever the case, whatever your title may be, I don't want anybody to think that this is to stop your monies. There's been cases where couples have went to marriage counselors, they went to therapists, they went to people, whatever you want to call them, and they came out better than what they once were. So, with that being said, then, proceed. If that's something that you want to do, if you want to go to a marriage counselor, or if you want to go to, somebody like that, you have faith in those people and you feel that they want to help you, that you feel as though that they're going to help you, then please be my guest. Proceed. I'm not trying to talk down on anybody that has that profession, okay? However, I just want everybody to understand that everything is supposed to revert back to Christ. But let me get right into this message, okay? So, do two walk together? This is Amos 3:3. I'm going to just roll right through this message, okay? And the message is, do two walk together, right? Do two walk together unless they have agreed to meet? So, like you tell me, do two walk together unless they have agreed to meet? Do two walk together? Okay? Philosophy, right? So, now, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father. So let's stop at counselor, okay? Because it says here that the Father would be our counselor. Now, I don't want anybody to argue with me about this because I know it initially says that unto us a son is born, and unto us a son is given, and one of his names would be called Counselor. So everybody brings up the discussion of, well, who is it that is the counselor? Is it the Son or is it the Father? Do I have to discuss that? Do I have to answer that question, really? Okay. So, what I want to do is I want to look at Isaiah 9:6, and I want to go to the word counselor. Okay? So, what is a counselor according to the scriptures? We don't want to go to the Webster, and we don't want to go to Webster, and we don't want to go to the dictionary. Okay? We don't want to go to Webster, and we don't want to go to the dictionary. What we want to do is we want to go ahead here to this Bible. I'm very tired. Okay? I'm constantly moving. I'm in and out of places. All right. So now, The Strong's Hebrew 3289 for the word counselor is to resolve a matter, to take advice, to advise, to consult, to counsel, to determine, to devise, to guide purpose. So basically, the counselor is Christ, the Father, whatever you want to call him. That's the counselor, and what he does is he guides you, he gives you advice, and he resolves matters. Now, I know what one of the issues is, right? One of the issues pretty much is, well, I don't hear him. I don't talk to him. I don't hear him. Right? Well, I don't hear him either. Did any of you ever hear me say that I heard Christ? Anybody? Right? I never got an audible of the Father. I never received an audible from the Father. I never heard any supreme or divine being say, speak my name. Now, I've heard an audible before. I did. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to even speak self-righteously. I don't know what it was. Could have been a damn devil as far as I'm concerned. But I did hear an audible voice before. It told me to get out of here. I was sitting in a parking lot. And I did exactly what it said, too. I pulled off. I had to come back because I was at work, but I did pull off. I went around the building, and I came back to see exactly what it told me to get out of there for, but there was nothing. Maybe it was just a test. But now, in any event, remember I told you that the easy way to go about this was to just have faith in Yahushua the Christ and believe. Right? That's where you have to start all of this at. Right? Now, I'm not a neighborhood player or a ladies' man. So I'm not trying to give advice to people on how to keep their wife. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to get everybody to understand that it is Christ that's going to say whether or whether not a marriage is going to be yay or a marriage is going to be nay. Now, let me go ahead and further into this, okay? Let's go to Ephesians, because I'm going to explain where a lot of the men are making mistakes, and I'm going to explain where a lot of the women are making mistakes in these marriages and in these relationships. And I'm going to say relationships too. Whether you be boyfriend or girlfriend, I'm not saying it's the right way. But what I'm saying is, some of you all have children, and that's not necessarily the reason to stay together. And that's not why me and my wife are staying together for whatever, I don't know what slanders are talking about, but, you know, before the boys, we were doing just fine. Now, no marriage is perfect. No relationship is perfect, right? But you got people that will lead you to believe that their marriage is all fine and dandy. Some leaders will say that, hey, everything, and they talk all high and mighty, and they worry about other people's relationships, and they worry about other people's marriages, and I bet you that they go through hell and high water to get a bowl of cereal in the morning. So let's not speak as if any relationship is going to be perfect, because there's going to be ups and downs. But I want everybody to understand. First, I'm going to explain what men do wrong. And then secondly, I'm going to explain what both men and women do wrong at the same time. But let's go to Ephesians 5:25, right? Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave him up for her. Now, I'm going to tell you that's the problem with a lot of you men. Don't misinterpret this message, because I know a lot of you are about to misinterpret what I'm about to say. Many of you men get into these relationships with women and you start loving them. That's a little backwards. First of all, you're rushing and you're moving too fast, because I've done that before. In my younger years, I've rushed into relationships, and now I'm not gonna say I was necessarily the simp guy, but we've all been there before, right? I did that with my daughter's mom. That was 20 some odd years ago, or maybe a little longer than that, almost 30 years ago. Well, yeah, about 30 years ago. And not 30 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. About 25 years ago. And with my daughter's mother. And see, this is why you need to understand that love is not only an emotion, but it's also an action. Love is not about falling all over the place and tears and all of these things. It's also an action. So, if you're going to show somebody that you love them, you have to first get something. If you're a man and you're going to show a woman that you love her, you have to first get something in return. This is where a lot of you Negroes go wrong. You go straight into the husband, love your wives. Now, this is Ephesians 5:25, and we're going to come back to that, because I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that, but there's something that you must receive first before you love your wife. Before you show her the action of love, she must give you something in order for you to do that, because it's the man who is the gold, not the woman. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about. Okay? Before I come back to that, first I want to give you all an understanding of these philosophies out there: therapy, psychiatrists, marriage counseling. And I want to show you how irrelevant they are. Okay? But before I do that, I want to give some scriptures here. I want to go to 1 Timothy 6:20. That's New Testament. That's 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20. And it says, O Timothy, that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called. Now let me go ahead and read it from the ESV. I'm going to read it from the ESV. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and the 20th verse. And it says, O Timothy, that first one was the KJV, this one's the ESV. It says, O Timothy, guard the deposit entrusted to you. Avoid the irrelevant babble and contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge. Now that knowledge, or that science, that it says science in the KJV, which pretty much means knowledge. What is he talking about? He's talking about things like astrology, science of the stars. He's talking about things like astrology. He's talking about things like marriage counseling, like going to see a therapist. And these are the things he's talking about. He's talking about all of these things that are worldly, okay, that they were invented down here, invented upon this world, okay? So that's what he's referring to here. Now, what you need to understand, right? Let's go to Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Colossians, whatever how you pronounce it. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. And it says, see to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ. It says, see to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ, and not according to Christ. See, once again, everything that you ever do in your life reverts back to Yahushua HaMashiach. Isaiah 9:6 explained to us that Christ was our counselor and he was our advisor. Well, I can't hear him. Hey, none of us can hear him for that. Well, I'm not going to say none of us now. I'm not going to be so arrogant to say that those people, there aren't some people that may have the indwelling of the Spirit. But in any doubt, okay, we are to follow the scriptures, is basically what I'm saying. To follow the scriptures, have faith in Yahushua HaMashiach, and follow the scriptures. Now, we also need to understand something else. And that scripture, it just came up in my mind. I'm not going to go searching for it right now because I want to just keep this going. But it says that a wicked woman is given unto a wicked man. So, if you're a wicked man, then you're going to get a wicked woman. And it also goes vice versa. If you're a wicked woman, you're going to get a wicked man. So, why? Because you're both indulging in the same type of lifestyle. You're both are dealing with the same issues and dealing with the same circumstances. So, you're going to, now that doesn't mean you may be physically attracted to one another. And some cases it actually even works. So it all depends on whether or not those two people are agreeing. But now we need to have an understanding, what are they agreeing on? They're agreeing on Christ. Okay? Do two Muslims agree on Allah? Do two Christians agree on Jesus? Do two Catholics agree on Michael and Mary, the angel Michael and the white Mary? Right? The two Buddhists agree on the Buddhist statue? Right? Of course they do. The two Jehovah's Witnesses still believe that John 1:1 says, and the Word was a God, and not the Word was God? Absolutely they do. They walk and they meet together. They agree. Do two Satanists agree on Satan? Yeah, they do. But you have to understand something. In order for two people to walk in the truth, they both have to agree on Revelations 1:14 and 15. And they have to agree that the commandments, not only, now I know it says hang all the law and the prophets on loving Elohim and loving thy neighbor as thyself. But you also have to agree on the Old Testament laws as well. You have to agree that a man shall not wear what pertaineth to a woman, and a woman shall not wear what pertaineth to a man. Okay? Now, I'm not sitting here acting like I'm a marriage counselor. No. Because those are the only, that's the problem with the world. If I was actually sitting next to a marriage counselor, you would give he or she more credit, even though I'm coming from the book. I'm coming from the scriptures. I'm not speaking nor leaning on my own understanding. They would be speaking and leaning on their own understanding according to the rudiments of this world, according to the psychological advancements that they've been taught by men. Me personally, I'm just telling you right now that Yahushua HaMashiach is the counselor, and that can't go wrong. Okay? Do relationships work without Christ? Sure they do. To something, some of them do. Some of them do. But it's never going to be that lock and grab relationship or that lock and grab marriage without Christ. The less Christ, the more difficulties. Okay? Am I saying, see, that's the problem with people, right? A lot of people want to come out here and they want to act like, oh, things are all perfect and all fine and dandy. You're going to have a seesaw. You're going to have ups and downs. But I'm telling you right now on how you fix them. Okay? Now, first faith. Okay, so now I want to talk about the first faith. So now this was also in my last message. I spoke in my last message, right? 1 Timothy chapter 5. 1 Timothy chapter 5, right? And it says, but the younger widows refuse. For when they, now, no, not that the younger women refuse, that they themselves refuse. He's trying to say refuse the younger women. It actually should be a comma there. Paul is saying, but the younger women refuse them. For when they have begun to wax wanton against Christ, for when they began rejecting Christ, they will marry, having damnation, because they have cast off their first faith. Do you know that if you're a black person, you are the offspring of Yahushua HaMashiach? Well, ultimately, yeah. Ultimately, all black. Ultimately, mankind all come from Adam. Okay? But, well, we're not going to get into that right now. That's a little deep. And yes and no. But that's somewhere else right now. Okay, but in any event, the nation of Israel is the offspring of Elohim. We're the offspring of Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay, whether you want to believe it or not. But yet many of you all go running and chasing after other gods. But you are literally the offspring of Christ. Okay? I said I wasn't going to get into nothing too deep, so let me keep on moving. So basically, okay, it says that she have cast off her first faith. So black women have left their first love, which is Yahusha, and you get angry at me because your own man is rejecting Christ or is in religion. Well, now, women, I got to tell you something. I have a resolution for that. So if you have a brother, or if you have, whether he be your boyfriend or your husband or whatever he may be, and he's rejecting Christ, or he's just in religion in general, right? Then I'm going to tell you how you fix it right here. 1 Peter 3, 1 Peter 3, 1 and 2. 1 Peter 3, 1 and 2. It says, likewise, wives, be subject to your own husband, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. So see, what happens is, and I want to make sure I got that right here, I want to make sure that the one without a word, conduct. Yeah. So, see, you have to understand something, right? When you are very respectful and not big-mouthed to your husbands, to your fiancés, to your boyfriends, don't you understand that by doing so, you can humble him down to a nature to where if he's not inclined, if he doesn't want to hear the word of Elohim, it will humble him to wanting to hear the word of Elohim. See, because you can't teach your husband the scriptures. Okay? Women cannot teach their husband the word of Elohim. Okay? He has to teach you. So you say, well, what if he's trash at the scriptures? What if he doesn't believe in Christ? And what if he's weak at comprehension in the scriptures? Well, just still go ahead. You still have to go ahead and respect him, and you still have to treat him like the man that he is, especially if he's providing for the household, especially if he's doing everything he can to climb up in society and do whatever he has to do to keep you all afloat. And if you're helping him, good, more power, because in this day and age, a lot of black men, a lot of brothers, they need help. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. So now I want to go back to Ephesians 5:25, because I told you I was going to come back to this, right? We're going to kind of get to the nitty-gritty now, right? It looks like I'm going to have to go into another thing here. But it says, Ephesians 5:25, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for it. Now, I told you that a lot of you men are doing it the simple way. You're simple-minded, meaning you're just rushing into loving the woman. She hasn't proved anything to you. She hasn't done anything for you. She hasn't helped you alongside with anything. She hasn't supported you or anything of that nature. And you just go ahead and give her all this action, this loving action, meaning I'm not talking about just sex. I mean, that's going to happen, right? But I'm talking about you're doing all of this foolishness, right? But there's something she has to do before you can do that for her. Now, let me go ahead and I'm going to just cut this off here because I'm going to need some time on the next one. So, matter of fact, what we got left? All right, no, we got about 8 minutes. So, let's go to Ephesians 5. We're going to read 6 through 25. So we're going to go back to that verse, but Ephesians 5. Okay, so this is Ephesians 5, and we're going to start at verse 6, right? All right, now, there's a reason why I'm starting at verse 6, okay? And I just want everybody to pay attention, okay? Ephesians 5, verse 6. Let no man deceive you. So, this is for people that say, hey, let me go to these therapists, let me go to these psychiatrists, let me go to all these people, right? Let no man deceive you with vain words. There you go, right off the back. For because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. For ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the word. Now are ye light in the master. Walk as children of light. Now, I just pay attention, okay? For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the master, or unto Yahuwah, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. So, what's happening right here? So, it's telling both men and women, black men and black women. What is it telling us, right? It says, for we were sometimes darkness, but now ye are light in the master. Walk as children of light. So both men and women have to walk as children of light. So that goes back to the beginning of this message is, well, can two walk together unless they agree? So you have to understand this. For any relationship to truly work, it can't be based on sex. It can't be based on money. It can't be based on material things. It has to be based on Yahushua HaMashiach. Now, you can agree, two people can agree on other things. Like I said, if Both people are in the same religion. They can agree on those things, and they can make it. Right? Proceed. More power to you. Okay? But there's going to be an end result for both of you for that, and you're not going to like the end result. Okay? So, now it says here, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth. So to trust in Yahusha, to trust in Christ, is in all righteousness and all goodness and in truth, right? Proving what is acceptable to Yahuwah. And then it's going to say, and have no fellowship, because I want you to understand he's talking to the men and women of Israel. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. So everything that I do, you better believe it's going to be made manifest by the light. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with all of these other leaders, whether it be camp leaders, organization leaders, or congregation leaders, or those in religion or religious leaders. It doesn't really matter. I got nothing to hide. But I'm going to tell you something right now, and a lot of things that a lot of you camp leaders and a lot of you organization leaders and a lot of you religious leaders are doing in the dark, it's going to soon come to the light. And you're going to be measured by that. Man, there's some very wicked things that a lot of you have done. Now everything, that's no problem with me, because of all these things that are being said about me, and blah, 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 this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? It don't make me no never mind. Let's bring it out, baby. Bring it out. It's nothing that I have to be ashamed of. Okay? So now, it's also going to say here, wherefore he saith, this is verse 14. But he said, okay, verse 13, but all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light. 14, wherefore he saith, awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Awake, thou that sleepest. He's not talking about somebody that's literally sleeping or dead. He's talking about somebody that is sleeping their consciousness and oblivious to the truth of Yahushua HaMashiach. Understand that it is Christ that is bringing black people out of the darkness into his marvelous light. And those of you who reject it, I'll be back.